Joe Biden has decided to speak out publicly, criticize the fascist...
I'm staying in the race.
The fascist Trump administration, the rejection of due process, the embrace of authoritarianism.
In terms of my neurological capacity.
Oh, wait. No, he's not doing that. He's not doing that.
Oh, is he throwing a pity party?
Apparently. It's all about me! Here he is on with Radio 4 TV. It was clipped by Fox News, talking about the difficult decision to step aside when projections were showing Donald Trump winning 400 electoral votes.
Should you have withdrawn earlier, given someone else a bigger chance?
I don't think it would have mattered.
The left gets accused of being nihilist. Like, nothing matters. Nothing can matter to these people. No decision they make. No, like, putting a thumb in the eyes of people who don't want to support genocide. That actually didn't matter electorally. Never mind results in Michigan. None of this matters. Everything I do doesn't matter. Everything you do is the thing that matters.
Yeah. He doesn't think it would... I mean, but like, he was deluded enough to thinking that he could win despite those internal numbers. Why are we listening? All right. Yeah.
Should you have withdrawn earlier, given someone else a bigger chance?
I don't think it would have mattered. We left at a time when we had a good candidate. She was fully funded. And what happened was...
Fully funded?
Wait, that was actually the reason you had to drop out, is because the money was drying up, buddy.
Yeah, that's what happened. You mean fully funded with your whole campaign staff based in Delaware, with them backing up you, calling her, saying, "No daylight, kid. Don't you dare say anything different. Don't you contradict me. Don't you throw me under the bus." And to her discredit, does not have the strong enough political instincts to have listened to that. And she should have. It could have made a real difference. But that was you. Is your whole campaign infrastructure that she inherited.
The Clooney call was not because the left was getting so upset with Joe Biden. We've been upset with Joe Biden. We told him to drop out the night of. The reason that he actually had to drop out was because all of that money that he's talking about that went to Kamala Harris was being guarded by the folks because they didn't want to give it to the Biden campaign because he's a senile old man.
Exactly. And, the left, which includes us, and Ezra Klein, and the entire Pod Save crew who worked for Obama. Like, this was not a question of ideology in terms of trying to get Biden to drop out after that debate. Nancy Pelosi, the far left. Like, I mean, who else was? The Democratic senators that were speaking out about this. The whole party came to this conclusion. And he's the victim. I forgot, though, but he's the victim.
Even Carville. Even Carville. Even James Carville.
Even James Carville.
Well, I mean, talk about somebody sensitive to the donors.
No one's saying that. No poll says that.
Anyway.
And what happened was, I had become what we had set out to do. No one thought we could do. And I become so successful in our agenda, it was hard to say, I'm going to stop now. I meant what I said when I started, that I think I'm prepared to hand this to the next generation. It's a transition government. But things move so quickly that it made it difficult to walk away.
So that's acknowledging that he lied. That's the first time I've heard him acknowledge that he lied about the next generation thing. But things move so quickly. They move so quickly. If your brain's working at 10% capacity, I would guess.
At 5 p.m.
Yeah.
It's like cocaine being the president. It's like once you have a taste.
Yeah. You got to go back for more.
It's hard to walk away.
You're
like a
just,
relationship.
You're just admitting that you were drunk on power. By the way, he sounds super well rested. Like, I mean,
oh yeah, 4 more years, everybody.
All of those concerns about his inability to communicate, they were so overblown.
Well, his stutter is particularly bad. insane.
I mean, the one silver lining is that there is no one in the Democratic Party that I think, or like Democratic voters have really, I think, are very angry at Joe Biden. Even more mainstream liberals for giving us Trump. They may not have had our stance on Biden's absolute complicity and furthering, and more than complicity, of the genocide in Gaza, and how that's a stain on all of us collectively, just as humanity, but a stain on his legacy, of course, given the fact that he helped engineer it. But that was not the tenor of the calls for people saying you need to drop out, dude. It was just the people who were competent in the liberal left circles were all saying the same thing, and the Kamala Harris campaign fumbled the ball in so many different ways, but it was still 108 days for her to introduce herself to the public, which she didn't do a good job of, and for them to get on board with another 4 years of her, as she was saying, which was Biden's directive, and she, again, listened and shouldn't have. Oh, it's going to be the exact same thing. When rent has never been higher. In January, we just hit a credit card debt new high, and we were being told by this administration, and a lot of people were, that everything was on the up and up, and that was not salient. So this is the outside of ideology, which I think the Biden administration domestically did some good things on antitrust and the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. Decent bills, good bills, right? But it's not about, and they should have been bigger, but, you know, we all know what happened there. And Biden letting Republicans into the negotiation process killed all the momentum. But the problem here is that he didn't allow for democracy to happen in the Democratic primary. He held on to power. They changed the primary schedule with the help of Jamie Harrison to put the state first, even in the face of all of state law in New Hampshire, for example, which says we have to be the first primary. Iowa's the first caucus, New Hampshire's the first primary. That's written into New Hampshire state law. So we had to do this weird thing where there was a write-in campaign for Biden in New Hampshire because there were issues getting him on the ballot because it flew in the face of state law because he was trying to stack it in his favor and make South Carolina first, because he has allies down there in Clyburn and also in the head of the DNC at the time, Jamie Harrison. It was all to make sure that Biden didn't have a challenge. And if there was a democratic process, I swear, I really do think this, if there were primaries, if Democrats were in the news, fresh voices, debating the issues, from the left to the centrists, and I don't think the centrists would have had a salient point, but there would have been like a long form national discussion and debate about what the Democrats stood for. Biden foreclosed that opportunity and made it all about himself. And so when the time came, everyone knows what Donald Trump stands for. His brand was already out there. And people opted for a change after the last 4 years didn't work out for them.
Biden tried to run us, we're the good guys, and he's doing a genocide.
Right. And but even the central premise was how this is about protecting democracy. One, people don't think democracy has worked for them because we have not provided with democratic outcomes in terms of the redistribution of wealth, and the democracy that has taken shape in this country has resulted in historic transfers of wealth to the top 1% and to billionaires.
And they call Israel a democracy.
Right. And so they undercut their own message about democracy, both just policy-wise with the Democrats for as long as I've been alive and prior to that. But in this specific instance, they made the case that Trump was a threat to democracy without doing democratic things and bringing in the public hundreds of millions of people in this country who couldn't weigh in and couldn't engage with what the Democrats were offering. And that is his fault. That is his fault.
There's no sincerity about democracy, and all those Democrats that said line up behind Joe because of that. We're should know that. The other thing is, like, politics is the art of the possible. So yeah, we said he should step down from the campaign.
Right.
I said, and I'm sure generally agreement, he should have stepped down a la LBJ. Frankly, like, he should have resigned the presidency.
Yes.
Even gone further than LBJ. He is not competent to sit in that office. It is, and guess what? That's something that people can immediately interpret. They don't need to get into the history of Israel-Palestine, the things that require like a modicum of a sort of like reading or something like that, like what's going on here. People know when an old person is kept in a position that they shouldn't hold. That is a human thing. You don't need political propaganda or political education to understand it. And the Democrats did it, and they fucking lied about it. And Elizabeth Warren, to put one great example, who's like one of the better politicians, is still somebody who gets tripped up on that on celebrity podcasts because this party is lying. And the old Joe Biden thing is just a microcosm, because the much more significant one is that all of us right now see them continuing to support a genocide by smearing people who oppose Israel as anti-Semites. They continue to do this despite polling. We all see them. We all see them right now. The entire world, as clear as Joe Biden is senile, Israel is starving kids and men, women, and children en masse. And we're supposed to play some sort of game like, actually, there's other things to balance with this. No, there's not. You're lying to us. That's why the Republicans are so unpopular right now, and you are too.
And when I think about the Slockins too, and the centrist Democrats or Schumers, it's what you're saying, Matt, where they have a really elitist and jaundiced view of the American public, where they genuinely don't think that people, if you're in like Missouri, that you can rub two brain cells together to figure out what politics is about and what they're representing. Like the popularism thing, and I know this is my bugaboo. I think
you credit it too much. In my opinion.
Yeah, I know. I can sense that you think that, but it's a malady that is more, I think, generally indicative of how the Democrats operate, where they look at polling and work backwards from it, and they foreclose the possibility of hope because of the narrowness of how they view that they can almost like manipulate the body politic as opposed to being forthright and honest. And even with Warren, who's the second best senator, and then the drop off is significant, I would say, after her. The drop off's more significant from Bernie to her, but I digress. Like, the fealty to the party is more important than throwing this dude overboard so you can gain some credibility. And and AOC and Bernie have gained their credibility with the public because of their policies and what they support. But the party brand is in the toilet because of all those levels of gaslighting about the genocide, about Biden's health, about the scope of their ambitions, about what they represent. And that's the problem. You can have another party where the guy's talking about reopening Alcatraz, but at least people understand that what Donald Trump, Trump's immigration policy, that was consistent throughout his entire political life. So
Republicans think you're lazy. Dems think you're stupid.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.